Hi there. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Follow Your Passion podcast. I'm your host, Erwin Wils. I'm a mindset and business strategist and founder of Millionaire Life Strategy. In this podcast, I'm interviewing my clients and other entrepreneurs that are following their passion and make a good living out of it. When you want to know more about me or what I can do for you, check out my website, millionaireLifestrategy.com. But first, check out this episode of Follow Your Passion. Hi, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of Follow Your Passion. Today with me, my guest is Paige Arnof-Fenn. She's the founder and CEO of Mavens and Moguls. Paige never intended to become an entrepreneur. She wanted to work for a large multinational and be a Fortune 500 CEO. She started her corporate career in the 80s on Wall Street and worked for companies like Coca-Cola and Procter & Gamble. She was the head of marketing at three different startups, and then 9/11 happened. The company she worked for cut their marketing, and since she had nothing to lose, she became an entrepreneur and started her own company, Mavens and Moguls, focused on PR, branding, marketing, market research, and communications. She enjoyed every minute ever since and knew she had succeeded when Harvard wrote 2 case studies on her business a few years later. Her clients range from early stage startups to Fortune 500 firms like Virgin and Microsoft. Welcome, Paige.
Thanks so much for having me, Erwin. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So since you had nothing to lose, you decided to become an entrepreneur. Did you already had some entrepreneurial aspirations, or was it just, I might as well go for it?
So it's a great question. So it turns out both my grandfathers were entrepreneurs. Neither of them went to college. They both started many businesses in their lives and were very successful. So I think part of it is it's probably in my DNA. I think I have a little entrepreneurial spirit in me, but I followed a much more traditional corporate path early in my career. But now looking back through the lens of having run my own business for 20 years, I realize in the corporate environment, I was always trying to bend, break, and change the rules. If you talk to any of my bosses from my early part of my career, they would roll their eyes and tell you, oh my God, she's really smart, but what a pain in the butt. I mean, she would never accept anything at face value. She was always challenging, always questioning, always wanting to shake things up. And now I realize looking back, I think I really was more entrepreneurial in a corporate environment and had that entrepreneurial spirit in me all along. And it's actually amazing to me that I survived and thrived in a corporate environment for as long as I did before I started my company. I think I think now I'm completely unmanageable, but back then I'm sure I did drive my bosses crazy.
Yeah, it sounds so familiar. You might have been my sister. I have the same background. My grandfather was an entrepreneur. Except my father worked for him for a few years, and he always said at home, it's better to work for a boss. And that's the environment I grew up in until I found my passion, decided to follow it, and things started to happen. But I truly connect with your story, Israel. So Mavens and Moguls, how did you come up with the name?
So that's a great story too. So Maven is a Yiddish word for expert, or my great grandmother would say know-it-all. And mogul, if you look up mogul in the dictionary, it's someone of rank, power, or distinction in a specified area. So when I was starting the business, I called the women in the group the marketing mavens and the guys in the group the marketing moguls. And for short, when I would email them or we'd start a call, I'd say, hey, Mavens and Moguls, blah, blah, blah. So that was like my working name. But it's not a very serious name, but I like the alliteration, the kind of the short and sweet and the ampersand in the middle. But when we were really starting to get serious and build the website, I thought, we need a real name. And I knew I didn't want to use my personal name or my initials. But I also didn't want, we do marketing and branding, and that's supposed to be fun and it's supposed to be creative. So I didn't want to have a company name like Strategic Marketing Advisors or Integrated Marketing Solutions. There are just so many boring names out there that don't really do anything for you. And, I decided, as you said, I started my marketing career at Procter & Gamble, and P&G is a very data-driven organization. And before they make any decisions on anything, they always do market research. So I thought, I need to name my business. I better do some market research because that's how I was trained. So, I didn't want to spend a lot of money. I just set up like a Zoomerang or a Survey Monkey. And I put together kind of a very basic concept test. Like Company X is a marketing consulting firm. Company X can help you do blah, blah, blah. Branding, positioning, messaging, advertising, promotions. And, I just put together a paragraph. And then in the blank, it was Company X. And then I gave them a list of like 100 names for Company X. So I said, read the paragraph and fill in the blank. Look at the list or pick your own name and tell me what your top 3 choices are for Company X. Mm-hmm. And I sent it out to a whole bunch of people that I respected, people that might be clients, people that might refer business, people in the media, and people I used to work with. And I said, I would love to get your perspective. Can you help me on my project to help me name my consulting business? And I gave them maybe 24 or 48 hours to respond. So the emails started coming back. And so I put Mavens and Moguls as one of the 100 names because I needed to come up with, and I put in Integrated Marketing Solutions and Strategic Marketing Advisors. I put in very serious names. Anyway, so the results start pouring in. And to my shock, Mavens and Moguls was on a lot of people's top list, top 3, top 5. So that was kind of interesting. Yeah. There were 3 people that I asked who responded and in some manner said, here are the names I like the most. But whatever you do, I hate the name Mavens and Moguls. I think that's so stupid or so silly or not serious. But one of those 3 people said, I actually didn't like any of the names on your list. I would just call it Company X. I think that's better, which I thought was a terrible answer. Anyway, so the time, the days pass, I'm tabulating all the answers and my phone rings. And one of those 3 people who had said, whatever you do, don't pick Mavens and Moguls. It's a terrible name. Yeah. She said to me, okay, this is really stupid, but I have to tell you something. I did your survey and I told you there was one name I hated, but here's the thing. It's the only name I remember and it's really grown on me. Now I think I kind of like the name. I guess I was going to email you, but I thought I should just call and tell you. And I thought that was like a red flashing sign. Like, yeah. Oh my God, this is real. So my college buddy and I were building the website. She was doing the programming and I was doing the copywriting. And we dropped in, I had a friend of mine design the logo and we dropped it in and it kind of started coming together and it just felt right. It felt like it had the right attitude, the right look and feel, the right tone. When I got it in the logo with the colors, it just kind of fell into place. So we've been Mavens and Moguls ever since. And as I say, it's a curious name that is often a conversation starter, just like you. How did you come up with your name or what does it mean? And, when you're in the professional service business, you just need to get into a conversation with people to get started. And anything that breaks the ice and makes it natural and interesting to have a conversation, that's how you start building relationships and trust. So I've never second guessed it. I've loved the name. I think, my great grandmother would probably still roll her eyes, But, for me, it really works.
I love the story, and you're absolutely right. And the beauty of it is, you didn't come up with the name yourself, but you truly did market research. You asked your audience, your stakeholders, and
Exactly.
that's the beauty of it. It reminds me when I started my first website, and you had to create this avatar about your ideal client, and as detailed as possible. And I did all that. And then came the moment you had to think about the look and feel of your website. And I was following a pilot program from some web designers. And they actually said, go to Pinterest, build a mood board, and see what fits you, right? But I've never done anything with Pinterest. So for me, it felt like, I'll put you in the middle of the Amazon, and you tell me which tree you like the most, right? It's impossible. Finding a needle in a haystack is easier, right? And then I realized, I've created this avatar. And for me, my avatar was a successful businessman. He drove a Porsche or a Tesla. He had Apple stuff. He was using Sonos or Bang & Olufsen equipment. And he was very settled, right? And then I thought to myself, those products, those services my avatar is using, they all have websites themselves. And they're after the same client as I am. And their marketing budget is probably a lot bigger than mine. So why don't I go to their websites and check out their look and feel? Because if they have done the research, my website should look similar, right?
Yeah, you can piggyback on that. Absolutely.
Exactly. And I got some great common denominators from that. And that's how I created my website, because it's all about them. It's not about you. It's about your clients.
Exactly. No, that's a brilliant insight. And, we do a lot of persona work for our clients, and it's the same thing. If you are a brand and the brand's walking through the door, how is the brand dressed? What are they eating? What are they drinking? What tennis shoes? What shoes are they wearing? Are they wearing sporting clothes or kind of casual or dressy? What does that brand embody? And you really want to paint the picture. And that is an absolutely brilliant way to do it, kind of on the cheap, is think about the brands that you want to emulate and that are consistent and simpatico with your brand, your message, your value proposition, and make sure that you fit into that look and feel. So that was really good. And color palette, are you someone who likes bold colors, pastel colors? I knew our main color was going to be red because red's my favorite color. My alma mater of my college and graduate school are both red. I always wear red shirts when I'm making presentations or, so, you have to be authentic to your brand. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, definitely. And would you also say that, at least that's my experience, that if people are building their specific avatar, that avatar is, sometimes almost a mirror image of the client themselves?
Yeah, I think for some people it can be aspirational, like it's who they want to be. And for some people, it's absolutely where they are today. They're very comfortable in their own skin. And again, I'm not saying there's one perfect answer, but I think it needs to be authentically you. If it's aspirationally you, and that's authentic to who you want to be, and you have elements of that and you're just trying to push further, that can work. Where it doesn't work is if you're trying to be real polished and button up and serious and academic, but really with people who know you, they think of you as the class clown or you're very snarky. That's a disconnect, and that doesn't work. So I just think you have to be very true to your authentic brand to make the avatar work for you.
Yeah, nice. So that said, When a client comes to you, they have certain desires, they have certain needs, certain wishes. And of course, client is king. Yet, do you also give them this constructive feedback, like you just shared? If they want to be this serious businessman, but they're all laughter, and so do you help them find their authentic self as well?
Absolutely. So again, I started my marketing career at P&G, and P&G is the most data-driven consumer products company in the world. Mm-hmm. Everything starts with research. It's not what you think. It's not what I think. It's not what your friend or your family or your neighbor thinks. What does your customer think? So I really try and ground everything in market research. Again, you can do it very scrappy, Zoomerang, Survey Monkey, but, it all kind of starts with, what is your brand? What real estate do you already own in your customer's mind? So, it might mean we do quantitative or qualitative research to find out what people already think about you and your brand. What words come up when I say, what do you think of when you think of Irwin? And what are the 3 or 4 words that pop into the people's head? And are they the same words that pop into everybody's head? Or, it may depend on how people know you. If they're family, they think of you one way. If they're friends, they think of you another way. If they're professional contacts, maybe you as a boss is different than you as an employee. So you have to see kind of how much overlap and how much consistency there is in the words that people come up with. And then once you get that feedback, which of those words really resonate with you? And again, are they you today? And do you want to be somebody different down the road? Are you trying to evolve your brand, or are you trying to inspire a different brand? Or how do you want to think of yourself going forward? Maybe your brand pre-pandemic is going to be different than your post-pandemic brand. Maybe you've had to evolve in some important way, shape, or form. So, once you get that feedback and you see what are the 3 or 4 words, you can't have 10 words. You can have 2, 3, maybe 4. And then you need to make sure that those messages are constantly reinforced in everything that you do, so that whenever people see you, whether it's at the grocery store, at a football game, making a presentation, on YouTube, at a coffee meeting, at a lunch meeting, are they getting the same story from you? Are you always consistently showing up with the brand that you want to portray?
Nice. So if you would ask your family members how to describe yourself, what words would come up, Paige?
Oh my goodness. For my family, I think they think I'm very bossy. I'm the oldest child, and my parents sadly have both died. So I'm kind of the senior statesman, I guess, of my family. So, people always come to me with not problems, but like, do you remember, or who said, or what's the tradition? So I'm a little bit of like the old lady in my family, even though I don't think of myself that way. And my brother and sister, and I'm sure their kids, think of me as a little, I'm very decisive. I'm very opinionated. So they kind of see me as kind of the bossy big sister, and not matriarch, but kind of senior statesman of my family.
Sounds like the right person to lead a company.
Like I said, it's all in my DNA.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. So with the company, you cover almost all bases with regarding to marketing and branding and stuff like that. What part of your business do you like the most? Is it the branding? Is it the marketing, or the market research, or the PR?
So I really love all parts of marketing. I've
Mm,
spent my entire career since 1990 in marketing, and I just really, marketing really resonates with me.
mhm.
I feel like I love communicating. I love finding the right words and pictures to tell stories. I think I'm a natural storyteller. I grew up in the Deep South, and Southerners kind of have the reputation here of being very chatty and loving to, talk about stories and whatever. So I think
Yeah.
it just really resonates with me. I mean, it's funny. I feel like, we've put our stake in the ground with marketing.
Mhm.
Once we get our nose under the tent, you know, pretty much everybody in the group has been a general manager and run a profitable business. So we're business people. Once we start working with clients on marketing, we may see issues that are actually sales issues or talent, HR issues, other functions. But we kind of come in through the marketing door, build the relationship, build trust, and then we may be able to help in a lot of different areas. But if you remember, when Amazon started, they were they were the world's largest bookseller online. All they did was sell books, and they built a strong reputation, and you started to trust them. You gave them your credit card, you could shop for books, and they would send it to you just like they promised. And that they did that for a long time. And then they branched out to music and videos. And now people buy everything on Amazon. I
Yeah.
mean, there is not one product you would not trust them to sell you. You go in and you look and you search, people buy their groceries, they buy their clothes, their jewelry. I mean,
Yeah.
electronics, everything from Amazon.
Mm.
But they built the relationship through books. I feel that is what we've tried to do through marketing. I want to be the one-stop shop for your marketing needs. So when you have a marketing problem, I love it if you think of me first, or if somebody refers like, oh, you have a marketing problem, you should reach out to Paige at Mavens and Moguls. They're really good at marketing. So I want to
Yeah.
own that space in my customer's brain so that anytime marketing comes up, that we're right there. And then, we talked a lot about the brand. You have to break through the clutter, break through the noise so that they know that that's what you do.
Yeah.
And the challenge for me, so as you can see, I have a hyphenated last name, and the name of my company, it's two words, kind of ampersand in the middle. So there's a lot of words going on there. And what I've heard from a lot of people who have hired us over the years and referred business to us is they think of us, they'd say, oh, there's that woman marketing. What's the company? Her name is Paige Mavens. And then they go into Google and they search for Paige and Mavens. And thank God for search engine optimization. I pop up right away. It's really me. And they don't have to remember my double-barreled last name. They don't have to remember
Yeah.
Mavens and Moguls. They can find me right away. So the challenge is you have to break through, you have to be memorable, and then they have to be able to find you.
Yeah. Nice. And with your 20 years of experience, there's enough of you out there to find you.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what I found very interesting to read is that you, when you started, you wanted to become a Fortune 500 CEO, and now you actually have Fortune 500 clients.
Yeah.
So
So
what do you love the most, to work with the early stage startups or with the Fortune 500 companies?
I love the mix. The majority of our clients, I'd say 2/3 of our clients are like 2 million to 200 million, kind of, mid-market, emerging market firms. But we do have Fortune 500 clients as well. When I was young, so I told you my grandfathers were both very entrepreneurial. My father was a Fortune 500 CEO. He ran a big business. My stepfather also was a CEO of a big global company. So I really thought I would follow in their footsteps. I had a more traditional path. I went to college, I went to business school, I worked at P&G, I worked at Coke. So I really thought I was on the path to run a big global company. But in 1997, I was working at Coca-Cola as the assistant chief marketing officer. Coke is the most recognized brand in the world. So being the number two person in marketing is a huge job, and I loved it. But the internet, this was like Internet 1.0, and it was starting to take off. And I was just mesmerized. I was so excited by all the technology. And I had spent my entire marketing career until 97 was in consumer products, B2C. But I just was seeing all this stuff going on the internet and just getting hooked. So I quit my big, cushy corporate job at Coke, and I left to go run marketing in an internet startup out in Los Angeles that no one had ever heard of before. I think my mother thought I was having a midlife crisis. And, people were like, wait, what's the company you're going to work for? I had never been in a situation where I'd given somebody a business card and they didn't know what the company did before. Everybody recognizes P&G, Coca-Cola. I work for the Olympics. They understand the Olympic rings. Nobody knew what this company did. But it was so exciting to me to bring this technology to mainstream. And, we ended up raising about $40 million, and the company went public and it was sold to Yahoo. And it was a .com survivor. And after that, I was completely hooked. And then I did it again, where I was the head of marketing for a company that no one had ever heard of. And we got sold to Bertelsmann, which is the largest private media company in the world. Then I did it again as the head of marketing for a company no one had ever heard of before. And we went public and we were sold. And, it was almost like an addiction for me, like taking these brands that were like the best kept secret and making them household names, making them known. And, these were, being acquired for like $1 billion, like they were really big businesses.
Yeah.
And so it just became really fun for me. And I realized I loved the autonomy, the flexibility, and the entrepreneurial spirit, and the lack of hierarchy. Working for a startup, it was just fun. It was just like the Wild West. When you work for P&G and Coke, you're working on businesses that have been around for decades or even more than 100 years. Coca-Cola had been around for like 130 years when I started there. So you're not going to have as much of an impact on the essence of that brand. When you're working for a startup that no one's ever heard of, your DNA is in that brand. And I just got hooked.
Yeah, I can imagine. And it's even what came to my mind was when you said, you started work for a startup that nobody had heard before. That was because you didn't work there yet, right?
Exactly.
And the fact that it got sold for multi-millions means that you did a hell of a job over there.
Thank you. My team was amazing. We just were fearless. This was, again, it was the Internet 1.0. It was easy. All these companies raised tens of millions of dollars when it was very easy to do that. And, we had a ball. We were just testing and learning and growing and kind of fearless. I mean, we were having so much fun, and we didn't take ourselves. I mean, we were very serious about our work, but we didn't take ourselves that seriously. And I just really loved the teams I was building. In corporate America, you inherit, the people and the staff and the structure and the hierarchy. When I started all three of those startups, I built the marketing department from the ground floor. So I was hiring every piece of the puzzle. And so the chemistry really mattered to me, not just the skill set. And, having worked for many years, both in big companies and smaller companies, I knew good talent, but I also knew good chemistry. And I feel like, when you can put all your energy into building the brand and none of it into the drama and crazy and politics that sometimes just consume you in a corporate environment, we just threw everything into the business and it worked. I mean,
Nice.
we sure made mistakes, but we just course corrected and pivoted and learned a lot and kept moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the same discussion I had with the other entrepreneur. You, as an entrepreneur, you're allowed to make mistakes because it's not the mistake itself. It's about what you do with the result of that, the learnings and the insights you get from that, because that's how you grow. That's how you develop as a person, actually.
Absolutely. That's how you learn.
Yeah. So since you started Mavens and Moguls, is there one success story that comes to mind what you had to share one with the audience?
Wow. I mean, we've had a lot of success stories. I guess the story I'm probably the most proud of. So I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana. That's where I went to high school. And one of our clients early on was an industrial products company in New Orleans that we got introduced to through somebody I knew locally. And they needed a rebrand. They needed a new logo, a new tagline, a new website. So we were really knee deep in this business. It was family owned and employed a lot of people locally. And we started working with them about 6 or 9 months before Hurricane Katrina. And the Katrina was an absolute disaster for Louisiana. It flooded and it shut down the city. It shut down the power. People had to evacuate. They didn't get back. So it happened in August and they weren't able to move back to Louisiana until like January. So people scattered and they were refugees in other states and relocated their families, put their kids in schools and other places. But we had been working with them for, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 months before Katrina. And when you do a big rebrand of a company, you really get to know the ins and outs. So we had interviewed and worked with every department, every division of the company in doing our market research and doing the legwork and all the background that we needed to rebrand the business. And, when you're scheduling meetings, you're working with people on their cell phones, and sometimes they're on vacation and they email you from their Gmail, so you're really getting to know these people kind of personally and professionally when you're in the trenches.
Yeah.
Well, when Katrina hit and the company scattered, one of the things we were working on is they had their biggest trade show of the year about 4 months after Katrina. And we had come up with a really good theme and a booth for the trade show. And we had really worked hard on making this this was going to be almost like a coming out party for them with their new brand, their new, logo, everything. Well, the company scattered and, the cell towers got knocked over. The internet went down, the server went down, and they could not find each other, but the employees could find us because we were working with everybody. So we built a database of where, this person went to Texas, that person went to Georgia, this one went to Arizona, this one went to North Carolina, this one, so we got in touch with everybody we could through their cell phones, through their Gmails, and we cobbled everything together. And we basically kind of tried to be the glue to help keep them connected. and we kept working on the trade show. And we changed the theme of the show. So at the time, one of the most popular news shows in America on television was called Survivor. Mm-hmm. And, they drop people on a desert island and they have to survive.
Yeah.
We changed the theme of the trade show to how this company survived Katrina. And we worked with the organizers of the trade show to say they're coming to the show, even though they're not going to even be back in their office yet, but they're going to all meet at the show. We've got a survivor theme, and we would tell them these stories about people that survived and how they survived. They had a warehouse where when people were trying to evacuate the flood, the warehouse manager was able to secure the warehouse, and they lived off of the vending machine for 3 or 4 days before they could be rescued. And so we had all these survivor stories, and we put together this great campaign and promotion. And we told everybody, please stop by our booth and come meet the survivors. And it was, we really loved it. Well, the trade show opens, and, some of the biggest industrial companies in the world were like the anchor of the trade show. We had a relatively small booth. Like I said, it's a local private company.
Yeah.
Well, the line to get into our booth was like out the door. Everybody wanted to meet the celebrity survivors who had survived Katrina. They had followed all of our material. We launched the website. People loved it. They got applications for people who wanted to work there. Everybody was so proud. They were like the belle of the ball. I mean, they stole the show at the trade show. Everyone, there were companies at the trade show that had taken, they were doing charity, raising money, and they brought them checks to help them rebuild after Katrina, to help the community survive. I mean, there were tears in people's eyes. Everyone just felt so connected to this story. And we had really, it was an emotional situation. It was a historic, unprecedented event, but we were able to incorporate it into the marketing that helped that company not just get through the tragedy, but thrive during it. And, I think their new brand was better than ever. I have the case study on our website, and it's really, it was really exciting. And for me personally, I think the reason I'm so proud, we did great work, but it really touched me personally because that's my hometown. And I knew these people, I had my friends and family had to evacuate. My mother, couldn't live in her home for months. And so it was a really proud moment in the history of our firm.
I can imagine. It's not only doing what you're paid off, it's making a positive impact, right?
Exactly.
And a huge positive impact. Wow. Great story, Paige. As you mentioned before, when you started, we got Internet 1.0 back in 97. I'm not even sure what version we're on right now, but it has evolved.
Like 3.0 maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, it has evolved since then, as has marketing, with all the social media, all the search engines, stuff like that. How were you able to evolve with it?
So, the great thing about marketing is you have to be alert and resilient. Mm-hmm. And, I think you have to have a growth mindset. You have to be somebody who loves learning and is just curious and constantly trying to keep your skills fresh. So I'm a big believer in professional development, reading, conferences, TED Talks, mentors, all of the above, mastermind groups, networking groups. I think you constantly have to be educating yourself. Yeah, when I started Mavens and Moguls Facebook was only on college campuses for students to say, whether someone was attractive or not. It was not even, no adults had Facebook. There was no Twitter. Pinterest didn't exist. Instagram didn't exist. So, there's going to always be new social media tools and technologies. So it's not that you have to learn and love every single one, but you have to embrace the novelty and learn why it's important. And even if you don't use it personally, you need to understand why it's relevant and how it can benefit maybe your clients or other people. You can choose not to do it, but you can't put your head in the sand. So I think we've survived and thrived through all the kind of twists and turns of technology because we stay on top of the trends. Certain clients take advantage of certain trends. No one's doing everything, but I think you pick what's the most relevant and the most meaningful for your audience. And we learn with each opportunity. And, I'm just constantly, I feel like, you're always on. I think that's why marketing is so fun and exciting. It never gets boring. There's always new stuff to learn, think about, and, to read about, and, podcasts. And so I'm like a sponge. I try and I'm just naturally curious. I want to learn everything.
Yeah, exactly. It's you and I are both the eternal student. We're never done.
Exactly.
Nice. I'm afraid we could talk hours on those subjects, but we don't have hours. So if you could share one tip or little piece of wisdom to the audience about following your passion or becoming an entrepreneur whatsoever, what would it be, Paige?
So again, it kind of comes down to authenticity. I think you have to do what's right for you. Don't worry so much what people around you are doing or what you feel like you should be doing. I think you have to do what's a natural strength of yours. Focus on your strengths and let other people do the things that are maybe not natural for you. I feel like the reason our company has been successful is because I have a network of great marketing talent where everybody in the group is specializing in the stuff that they love and do better than anybody else in the world. The research person is awesome. The PR person loves doing PR, but I'm not asking the PR person to do market research. Like, that's not her thing. And, I think if you stick to what makes you unique, special, different, and where you thrive, when you're in your lane and your zone and you're doing what you love, that you're better at than anybody else in the world, you're going to be great at it. And it's going to be hard for others to compete with you because you are resonating at a much higher frequency than other people. So I would just encourage people, don't kind of fight the tide. Go with the flow. Like, find what you love, find what really feels natural. What are the things that you start doing and you look up and like hours have passed? If you're looking at the clock and you're watching the clock and you can't wait for it to, be, you just want to move on to the next thing, that is not your passion. That's, that you are never going to be the best at that. So don't fight it. I guess that's my best advice.
Thank you. And that's great advice. And I think you can also, at a small scale, even apply it to social media,
Absolutely.
You hear a lot of people say you have to be on Instagram, TikTok is now hot, we had this, what was the other platform that was only invitation only, where you can Clubhouse, indeed, right? I've tried it. And if it's not your thing, don't spend any energy on it, Stick with the medium that feels right for you and do it over there. So
absolutely, Erwin. I tell that to my clients all the time. Do not spread yourself too thin, because if you are everywhere, but you're not really strong anywhere, that's going to dilute your brand. Pick one or two platforms that are strong, that resonate with you, that are authentic to you, and make that your place. For me, it's LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great platform for me on social media. I can, share my thought leadership. It's a great place for me to connect, to showcase my expertise. My profile, you get your profile in a really good shape, good position, good headline, photo, description, recommendations. That is my sweet spot. I'm not on Pinterest. I'm not on Twitter. That is not my strength. I don't, I think a lot of people feel like they need to blog and tweet. The problem is if you start a blog and you don't keep it up, you're sending a really bad message. You're telling people you're flaky, that they can't depend on you. You're not consistent, and again, if you start a blog and you blog 3 times, 4 times week 1, and then the next week only twice, and then the next week once, and then you forget, and a month passes and I better do a blog post. That is not the way to build a good, strong brand reputation online.
Definitely. We can shake hands on that. I love LinkedIn as well. So, Paige, if people want to know more about you or your company or want to get in touch with you, how can they do that?
2 places. LinkedIn is a good place. Paige Arnof-Fenn. If you Google me, it's really me. And my website, mavensandmoguls.com, mavensandmoguls.com. And you'll find me, no problem.
Perfect. Thank you, Paige, for this very interesting and inspiring conversation. I love to stay in touch, and I wish you all the best with your company and yourself, of course.
Thank you. You too. This has been a lot of fun.
I hope you liked this episode. Make sure to check out the other episodes, because each one is filled with interesting and inspiring stories and energy. Are you following your passion as well and make a good living out of it? Contact me and you could be my next guest. Would you like to follow your passion but are not there yet? Check out my website millionaireLifeStrategy.com and book an appointment to discover what I could do for you. Don't forget to share the podcast with your friends so that they get inspired as well.